The date is October 1985. In the heart of the Salyut 7 space station, a metalkin hurtling through the silent void, Commander Vladimir Vasyutin is at the absolute end of his physical control. His mind is screaming, but his body is giving out. Darkness swallowed everything, not the soft night of Earth, but an absolute impenetrable black that pressed in like a living thing, turning the ultimate frontier into an inescapable tomb. Losing eyesight due to sickness or fever, known medically as post-febrile blindness, is a rare but documented condition. It can occur when a severe infection or high fever causes inflammation or damage to parts of the body involved in vision, such as the optic nerve, retina, or brain's visual cortex. Vasyutin knows none of this at the instant it happens. All he knows is velocity. The station's orbital speed is 8 times faster than a rifle bullet, yet inside the habitation module everything feels motionless, a cruel stillness that makes the sudden blackout even more obscene. One heartbeat he is floating beside the porthole, watching the sunrise crawl across the Caspian Sea, a thread of molten copper unraveling through indigo clouds. The next heartbeat the world snaps shut like a book dropped in 0G. No fade, no gray, no sparkles, simply off. The first sensation is dizziness, not the gentle swirl of Coriolis from spinning a module too fast, but a full-body gyroscopic wobble that starts behind his eyes and radiates outward until even his teeth feel loose. He blinks hard, blinks again, feels the eyelids scrape across corneas that must still be there. Anatomy has not vanished, even though the input has. His right hand drifts up, fingers splayed, hunting for the LED strip that lines the ceiling. He finds the aluminum batten, traces it, waits for the crimson glow that should leak between his knuckles. Nothing. He might as well be rubbing the outside of the station, naked to the vacuum. Victor! The name rockets from his throat, ricochets off instrument panels, gyroscopes, the lattice of cable bundles, and dies somewhere forward of the air revitalization rack. No answer, only the omnipresent hush of fans pushing air through charcoal and lithium hydroxide, the faint click of a relay cycling in the thermal regulator. The soundscape is unchanged, yet it feels suddenly hostile, every acoustic texture sharpened to a knife because the eyes have abdicated. He can hear his own pulse sluicing through the carotid arteries, can hear the tiny creak of neck vertebrae when he swivels his head in desperation. He pushes away from the bulkhead, misjudges force, and tumbles. His knee clips a stowage locker. Pain blooms bright but useless because he cannot see the bruise darkening. Micro-G converts every motion into a slow-motion pratfall. Without vision, the choreography collapses. He flails, catches a handrail, wraps his legs around it like a panicked spider. Orientation is gone. He tries to reconstruct the module, transfer tunnel to his left, docking cone forward, work compartment aft. The mental map shimmers, then dissolves into a grid of black squares on blacker background. Victor, answer me. Still nothing. The silence is so complete he wonders if the blindness has crossed into deafness, but then he hears the high-frequency whine of the attitude-controlled gyro ramping up, an automatic trim to counter atmospheric drag at perigee. The station is flying itself, indifferent. 26 weeks ago the launch felt like a promise. 6 months of national glory, military experiments, Earth resource photography. Now the same calendar page feels like a death warrant. He calculates distance home, roughly 150 million meters of hard vacuum, a planet of air and snow and pine forests he cannot see, cannot even remember in color because the mind's darkroom has overexposed every photograph. He forces a breath, tries operational logic. If power had failed, he would feel the temperature drop. If a fire had broken out, he would smell it. If the cabin had depressurized, his blood would be boiling. None of that. Only the absence of light. He pats the breast pocket of his flight suit, finds the pen light on its lanyard, thumbs the rubber switch. The bulb is warm against his wrist, current is flowing, but the universe stays blind. Panic escalates like an unchecked fire. He rehearses the medical checklist. Vision loss, sudden, bilateral. Possible causes: retinal detachment, optic neuritis, occipital stroke, neurotoxic exposure. Treatment: immediate return to Earth. But return requires Victor, requires eyes to read checklists, requires a crew that is not deaf to his cries. He launches himself toward the forward cone, hand over hand along the gray-green rails, counting nodes, 12 segments between science module and docking tunnel. On the 10th, he miscalculates momentum and drifts starboard, forehead glancing off a temperature probe. The impact is minor, but the sound is huge inside his skull, a kettle drum boom that reverberates through the bone conduction of his own body. He tastes iron, blood or fear he cannot tell. "Victor, answer me!" His voice breaks into falsetto. He hates the sound, hates the weakness, hates the darkness more. He imagines the flight engineer 2 compartments away, headphones clamped over ears, lost inside a spectrum analyzer, chasing a rogue harmonic in the power bus. A stupid, mundane task, exactly the kind of minutia that eats entire orbits. He imagines Victor humming an old Vysotsky ballad, oblivious. The image should comfort. Instead, it widens the gulf. He reaches the entry to the work compartment, pulls the canvas strap that serves as a doorway, pulls himself through. The air here smells different, ozone from a soldering iron Victor used earlier, plus the yeasty odor of rehydrated onion soup. Proof of life, yet still no reply. "Victor!" This time he shouts so hard the soft palate at the back of his mouth spasms. He waits, counting heartbeats. 1, 2, 3. At 15 he hears the faint scrape of a Velcro patch separating. Footprints and sound. Someone is floating closer. Relief floods him so violently his visionless eyes sting. "Vladimir?" The voice is muffled, as if speaking through a pillow. Not Victor's. The wrong timbre, the wrong register. It is his own voice echoing back from the concave aluminum of the spherical docking node, a ghost reflection that has taken 8 seconds to travel the circumference of the station and return to mock him. He is alone. The realization detonates inside his chest. He clamps the handrail so hard the knuckles creak. Alone in orbit, 400 kilometers above the nearest human, blind. The station becomes a coffin, its portholes now useless eyes gouged out. He thinks of the re-entry module docked outside, the tiny bell-shaped Soyuz, with its analog clockwork and mechanical levers. He cannot fly what he cannot see. He cannot even find the hatch to crawl inside. A new sound approaches, the soft whir of the electron-oxygen generator cycling up, a valve clicking open, hydrogen hissing into the catalytic matrix. Normal, scheduled, indifferent. The machine breathes for him, unaware that the man is drowning. He forces himself to catalog what still works: hearing, touch, proprioception, memory. He recites the layout again, this time aloud, as if speech can nail the ghost in place. Transfer tunnel, length 4 meters, diameter 2. Forward, spherical node, 6 radial ports. Port side, Soyuz. Aft, intermediate compartment. Starboard, science. The words feel solid until he tries to move, then the blackness tilts, and the map skids. He remembers a training lecture from Star City. In smoke-filled cockpits, downed pilots survive by crawling backward, mapping the aircraft's skin until they locate the exit. He tries the equivalent, hooking his ankles around the rail, letting his torso drift horizontal, palms brushing the curvature of the hull. Every rivet becomes braille. He counts them, assigning numbers to sectors, building a new constellation out of touch. Somewhere aft a pump changes pitch, a subtle downshift that signals the daily orbit-night transition. The station has slipped into Earth's shadow. External temperature will drop 100 degrees in minutes. Internal plumbing will contract and tick. He used to love that metallic aria, proof that machines respond to planetary rhythms even here. Now each tick sounds like a countdown. He drifts too far port, shoulder colliding with a storage net. His fingers land on something soft. Victor's unwashed towel, still damp from the morning sponge bath. He presses it to his face, breathes through the fabric, searching for the scent of another human. Sweat, soap, cigarettes smuggled aboard, anything. The towel smells only of iodine and cold metal. He realizes he is crying. Tears pool in the sockets, cling in perfect spheres, drift away when he moves. He cannot see them sparkle. Time becomes elastic. He counts his breaths to measure it, 4 seconds in, 4 out, until the count dissolves into a meaningless loop. He wonders if the fever is still climbing, wonders if the blindness is temporary or permanent, wonders if the optic nerves are already pale and dead like frost-killed vines. He wonders if Victor is unconscious, incapacitated, dying. He wonders if he himself is already dying and simply hasn't noticed the moment of transition. Then, from the aft tunnel, a new sound, the soft pop of a plastic buckle, followed by the unmistakable click of a magnetic latch releasing. Someone is uncoupling a headset. A moment later, a voice, real this time, thick with sleep, calls out, "Vladimir, why are you screaming?" Relief hits so hard his limbs go weak. He answers, but the words tangle, emerge as a sob. He swallows, tries again. "Victor, I can't see. Lights are gone. Everything." A pause, then the rustle of fabric moving fast. Footfalls on rails, efficient, closing. Victor's hand finds his shoulder, squeezes. "I was in the transfer tunnel," Victor says, breath coming fast. Had the comm panel pulled, troubleshooting the R7 uplink. Headphones on, noise cancel. I heard nothing until I removed them. The explanation is so ordinary it almost hurts. A maintenance loop, a headset, a man doing his job. The abyss between them was only 10 meters and a thin layer of foam insulation. Victor's fingers brush Vladimir's face, hover before the eyes. Pupils fixed, wide, no response to my pin light. The voice stays calm, but underneath it, Vladimir hears the tremor of a man who understands the implications faster than any checklist. "We need to get you home," Victor whispers. Outside, the station continues its silent sprint, ripping across the night side of Earth at 18 times the speed of sound. Inside, 2 men float in absolute darkness, one literal, one existential, while somewhere far below, snow begins to fall across the landing fields of Kazakhstan, each flake catching starlight before it settles onto the cold steppe that may, or may not, ever see them again. Victor's pin light flicks again. Click, click, hot white against Vladimir's frozen pupils. Nothing, no constriction, no blink reflex, only the same unbroken night. The silence stretches until the hum of the station seems to rise in volume, a mechanical choir witnessing the verdict. Victor snaps off the light, exhales through his teeth, and the smell of onion soup and solder returns, stronger now, as if the air itself has begun to sweat. "Temperature first," Victor mutters, more to himself than to the blind man clinging to the rail. He pulls the infrared thermometer from its Velcro holster, presses the probe to Vladimir's temple, 39.4 degrees Celsius. A number that means nothing to the darkness but everything to the mission. Fever high enough to cook neurons. Victor's mind races through the chain. Fever, inflammation, optic nerve edema, ischemia, permanent loss. He forces the spiral closed. Not now, one catastrophe at a time. Vladimir hears the thermometer beep, interprets the pause. "Bad?" he asks, voice raw. "Hi," Victor answers. The single word lands like a slap. "We're dropping everything non-critical. I'm getting you into the Soyuz couch within the hour." A laugh burbles out of Vladimir, harsh, incredulous. "Hour? I can't find my own boots, Victor. I can't see the hatch handle. I can't even see your face." The last sentence cracks. He realizes he may never see another face again. Victor grips the commander's elbow, steadying them both. "Then we'll do it blind. The ship is metal, not magic. Metal remembers shape. So will you." He begins the lesson immediately. He places Vladimir's right palm on the rim of the spherical node, tracing the weld seam letter by letter. "This is your North Star. Feel the ridge? Every compartment branches from here like spokes. Count the ridges. 1, 2, 3. When you hit the 6th, that's the transfer tunnel to Soyuz. You'll never be lost if you count." Vladimir repeats the count aloud, voice shaking, fingers trembling so violently he keeps losing the ridge. Victor steadies the hand, guides it again, until the map is carved into muscle memory. Then they move, slow, tethered together by touch and trust, toward the medical kit. Victor cracks open the lid, finds the ampoule of dexamethasone, breaks the neck with a practiced snap. The needle glints unseen as he slides it into Vladimir's shoulder. The commander doesn't flinch, Pain is a country he has already immigrated from. While the drug diffuses, Victor floats to the communications console, keys the secret emergency code that bypasses the normal military channel and links directly to the T's-up flight director's red phone in Kaliningrad. The encryption takes 17 seconds. 17 seconds in which Vladimir drifts, counting breaths, hearing his own heart ricochet between bulkheads. When the circuit opens, Victor speaks in clipped bursts. Medical emergency, sudden bilateral vision loss, elevated fever, request immediate consultation for expedited return. The voice on the ground is calm, bureaucratic, already reaching for binders. They promise a callback in 30 minutes. 30 minutes is half an orbit, half a sunrise, half a lifetime. Victor kills the mic and turns. Vladimir has begun to shiver, micro tremors that sent him rotating slowly around his own axis like a slow-motion pinwheel. Fever chill. Victor pulls a woolen liner from the survival stash, wraps it around the commander's shoulders, zips it tight. The gesture is intimate, almost maternal, and it breaks something loose inside Vladimir. Tears well again, fat spheres that drift and collide with the fabric, leaving dark asterisks that only Victor can see. I should log the timeline, Vladimir whispers, ashamed of the tears, ashamed of the helplessness. You will, later. First we walk. Victor takes the blind man's wrist, lays it across his own shoulder. We're going to the Soyuz. Step 1. Airlock hatch. You lead, I follow. If you drift, I'll correct. Nod. Vladimir nods, wipes his face on the liner's cuff, and begins the journey. Each movement is a theorem proved in darkness. Count ridges, grip, pull, kick, drift, brake with knee, repeat. The station creaks around them as the thermal gradient bites, metal contracting, joints sighing. Somewhere a pump switches from low to high speed, a change Vladimir once would have seen on an amateur. Now he hears the pitch climb and knows they have slipped fully into eclipse behind Earth, the coldest 46 minutes of every 91-minute lap. They reach the intermediate compartment. Victor stops him. Obstacle course, he warns. A rack of exposed film cassettes floats free, tethered by bungee like a nest of sleeping snakes. He guides Vladimir's hand to the first cassette. Feel the notches? 5 of them. That's how many we have to pass. Count them out loud. 1, 2, the commander's voice quavers, but the count holds. On 3, his boot snags a bungee. The elastic twangs, a cassette breaks loose and tumbles, clipping his temple. Pain flashes white, useless, because white is a memory now, but he keeps counting, refuses to stop. They clear the rack. At the transfer tunnel, Victor halts again. The cylindrical shaft is narrower here, lit only by the dim emergency strip that runs along the ceiling, light that exists for Victor alone. He describes it aloud, painting with words. Soft amber, like a Moscow street lamp in fog. You're stepping into a throat of metal 8 meters long. Handrails at 9 and 3 o'clock. I'll be right behind you, feet on your shoulders. If you panic, speak. If you stop breathing, I'll know. Vladimir swallows bile. Let's go. They enter. The tunnel feels colder. The walls seem to inhale. Halfway along, the commander's boot knocks a loose washer. The metallic ping races ahead, echoes back, a sonar blip that tells him the far hatch is still open. He uses the sound, unconsciously adjusting his drift to centerline. Victor notices, says nothing, files the datum away. The blind man is already learning echolocation. They emerge into the spherical docking node. The air smells of burnt brake pads, residue from the Soyuz's last thruster test. Victor guides the hand to the 6th ridge, the one that points to the descent module. Soyuz hatch, port side, 12 o'clock relative to the ridge. Reach? Vladimir reaches. His fingers find the familiar combing, the soft rubber seal, the T-handle cold enough to sting. He wraps both hands around it, leans forehead against the metal as if listening for a heartbeat. Behind that hatch lies the only path home, a machine designed in 1962, upgraded but never gentled. He whispers a plea, not to God but to engineers long retired who drew arcs and angles on paper drafting tables, trusting that someday a blind man might need their livers to fall out of the sky. Victor squeezes past, cycles the equalization valve. Air hisses, pressures balance. He cracks the hatch inward. A breath of colder, drier air escapes, washes over Vladimir's face, carrying the scent of singed insulation and parachute silk. Home, or the last capsule of it. Inside, Victor orders. We have 20 minutes before Tease Up calls back. You will learn every switch by feel. We will rehearse until your fingernails know the sequence. They enter. The Soyuz interior is a cave the color of dried blood. Victor describes it anyway, knowing words are stitches that hold panic closed. Vladimir lowers himself into the left couch, the commander's position, feels the molded contours, the restraint straps, the chunky toggle switches proud beneath protective guards. Victor takes the right seat, guides the blind hand across the panel, row by row, naming each control. Battery master, gyro spin up, sequencer arm, pyro bolts. The commander repeats the names, tracing edges, memorizing spacing. His fingertips bleed microscopic skin cells onto ancient toggle hats, leaving oil prints that will outlive both of them. Outside, the station continues its relentless sprint, ripping through the mesopause, dragging sunrise behind it like a comet's tail. Inside, 2 men sit in a capsule designed for 3, rehearsing a choreography no cosmonaut school ever taught. Blindfold re-entry, muscle memory survival, the refusal to let darkness write the ending. Victor sets a stopwatch, 18 minutes until the ground calls. He pulls a strip of Velcro across Vladimir's wrist, tethers it to the couch arm so drift will not disorient. Now, he says, we start at T-4 hours. Close your eyes. No, keep them closed, and tell me the first 6 switches you throw. Vladimir inhales, exhales, begins. His voice is hoarse but steady. The fever still burns, yet a different fire kindles alongside it, something fiercer, older, the ancestral refusal to die quietly in the night. Switch by switch he narrates the sequence, fingers moving with increasing certainty, building a cathedral of touch inside the dark. Outside, sunrise finally catches the station, floods the porthole with gold that only Victor can see. He watches the light paint trembling reflections across the commander's face, cheeks hollow, eyes wide and fixed on nothing, and feels the weight of every mile between here and the snowfields of Kazakhstan settle onto his own chest. The stopwatch beeps. Time is up. The phone will ring. Victor reaches for the headset, pauses, covers the mic with a palm, and turns to the blind man. Whatever they say, we are coming home. Today, tomorrow, next orbit, we decide. Not them. Vladimir nods, throat working. Then let's decide to live. Victor thumbs the transmit button. The radio crackles, a distant voice from Earth asking for details, asking for probabilities, asking for courage it cannot gift. Victor gives them the only currency left, honesty wrapped in steel. Salyut 7, this is TSUP. We are convening the emergency committee. Stand by for trajectory solution. Standing by, Victor thinks, is no longer an option. He glances at the commander, sees the fingers already moving across the panel again, rehearsing the next sequence, and feels the capsule shrink into a single purpose: fall, survive, land, sea. Outside, the station races on, indifferent. Inside, the 2 men begin the long count backward from blindness toward Earth, one switch at a time. The voice from Kaliningrad is crisp, almost clinical, but beneath the static Vladimir can hear the strain of men chain-smoking beneath fluorescent lights. Salyut 7, Emergency Committee concurs. Expedited deorbit window opens in 11 hours, 23 minutes. Perigee burn at 6:12 and 45 seconds, Moscow Standard. Weather in Kazakh steppe, -18 Celsius, gusts to 30 kilometers per hour, visibility 6 kilometers. You are go for immediate return. Go for immediate return. The phrase should taste like salvation. Instead, it tastes like copper. 11 hours is 2 more nightside passes, 2 more sunrises Vladimir will not see, 2 more chances for the fever to climb another lethal degree. Victor copies the numbers, repeats them, then kills the mic and turns to the blind man beside him. 11 hours, he says. We'll be on the ground before the next orbit's lunch. Vladimir's fingers stop dancing across the switches. And if the fever cooks my brain before then? Victor unstraps, floats closer, lowers his voice. Then I fly us home with a corpse in the left couch. But I'd rather fly home with a friend who can walk out under his own power. So we work. He opens the medical kit again, fishes out the last 2 ampoules of antipyretic, snaps both necks in one motion. The liquid disappears into the commander's shoulder. Next comes the portable cooling cuff, a sleeve of gel connected to a hand pump, designed for sprained ankles but adaptable to carotid arteries. Victor wraps it around Vladimir's neck, squeezes the bulb until the gel swells like ice against fevered skin. The commander gasps, shudders, then steadies. Better? Colder, Vladimir answers. Cold is direction. I'll take it. They return to rehearsal. Victor has stripped the checklist to its skeleton: 64 switches, 14 valves, 7 circuit breakers, 1 lever that arms the pyro bolts separating them from the station that has been their world for 26 weeks. He calls the items aloud. Vladimir's hands find them blind, again, until the motion is indistinguishable from reflex. Between runs, Victor describes the outside world he can still see, the porthole framing Earth's curved limb, the Terminator line racing toward them like an orange scalpel, the way sunrise ignites frost on the exterior handrails until they glitter like diamond wire. The words are postcards slipped under a prison door. Hour 3 passes. The fever refuses to break. Vladimir's pulse climbs to 112, then 120. Sweat beads, floats free, collects in the intake grill of the cabin fan where it steams and smells of salt and fear. Victor wipes his own forehead, realizes the environmental control is laboring, 2 metabolisms dumping heat into a volume smaller than a Moscow elevator. He adjusts the coolant loop, diverts more flow to the sublimator outside, hears the faint hiss of water flash boiling into vacuum. A tiny white plume erupts from the hole, crystallizes instantly into snow that chases the station at orbital velocity. An entire comet of their fever will trail them around the planet twice before sunrise. Hour 4. They leave the Soyuz, crawl back through the transfer tunnel to retrieve the flight data recorder, the biological samples, the film canisters that justify the mission's cost. Victor clips a tether to Vladimir's ankle, becomes his seeing-eye dog in reverse. They move sternward, past the node, past the galley where a half-eaten tube of borscht drifts like a bleeding star. Each object Victor names makes Vladimir touch, anchoring memory to texture: smooth anodized aluminum of the camera magazine, rich plastic of the urine sampler, cold glass of the protein crystallization rack. When they reach the greenhouse, the pea plants are wilted, leaves curled into fists. Vladimir's fingers brush them, linger. "Tell me color," he whispers. "Emerald to olive," Victor says. Stems still hold a trace of chlorophyll fluorescence under UV. "They tried, Vladimir. They tried to grow while we were dying." The commander's throat works. "Note it, log it. Someone down there will want to know peas died in orbit so men could live." They retrace the route, film canisters clanking like church bells inside their mesh bag. Halfway back, Vladimir's boot catches a guide wire. He spins, slams shoulder first into a bulkhead. Pain detonates, but pain is information, and information is light. He welcomes it, uses the impact to reorient, reaches for the next handrail without prompting. Victor watches, says nothing, pride and terror wrestling behind his eyes. Hour 5. The final inventory: food packets, water bladders, survival pistols, the tiny wooden doll from Vladimir's daughter that has ridden every Soyuz since Gagarin. Victor stows each item in the designated Soyuz locker, calls out the stowage code, makes Vladimir repeat it, seal the Velcro, pat the closure twice, confirmation by touch. When the last locker is shut, they perform the countdown rehearsal again, this time with full suit donning. The Sokol pressure suits are stiff, unforgiving. Gloves feel like plaster casts. Vladimir's fingers hunt for toggles hidden beneath layers, find them, lock them, verify. By the end he is panting, cheeks gray, but the sequence is flawless. Hour 6. They rest. Victor forces water laced with salt and glucose between Vladimir's lips, monitors urine output color by asking him to describe the warmth against the catheter bag, an indirect thermometer of dehydration. The commander's voice is fading, words slurring at the edges. Victor considers another ampoule of steroid, decides the risk of gastric bleed outweighs benefit, settles instead for stripping his own thermal underwear and wrapping it around Vladimir's shins to add conductive heat loss. The gesture leaves Victor shivering, but the commander's core temp drops 0.2 of a degree. Measurable, precious. Hour 7. The station's orbit carries them across the Pacific, over the thunderstorm nurseries south of Hawaii. Outside, lightning spiders across cloud tops, blue-white dendrites that crawl 1,000 kilometers in seconds. Victor describes the spectacle, voice low, reverent. Vladimir listens, eyes open but vacant, and begins to weep again, silent this time, tears pooling in the weightless hollow beneath his cheekbones until Victor blots them with a thumb. "Do you know what I see?" Vladimir asks. "Tell me." "I see the sound of your voice. It's silver, like wire heated until it glows. When you pause, it cools, darkens. When you speak again, it brightens. That is all the light I have left." Victor has no reply. He places the blind man's hand on the Soyuz abort handle, curls the fingers around the grip until knuckles blanch. "Hold that wire," he says. "Don't let go." Hour 8. Kaliningrad uploads the final state vector, a burn duration of 4 minutes, 37 seconds, delta V of 115 meters per second, targeting a landing ellipse 47 kilometers northeast of Arkalik, square in the center of the frozen steppe. Victor copies the figures onto a strip of duct tape, sticks it to the panel above Vladimir's couch, raised braille of ink he will never read but can feel with tracing fingertips. They run the sequence once more, this time under simulated G. Victor hauls on a bungee threaded through the cabin so both men are pressed sideways into their straps, mimicking the 3.5 grams load of re-entry. Vladimir's hands hunt for switches while lungs compress, while neck muscles scream, while the fever burns. He misses only one toggle, finds it on the second sweep, locks it. Victor releases the bungee. They float free, gasping, victorious. Hour 9. The hatches between station and Soyuz are sealed. Metal dogs bite metal rims. The clang reverberates through both hulls like a funeral bell. Vladimir feels the vibration travel up his spine, imagines it as the last tactile postcard from Salyut 7, a place that has kept them alive and now must be abandoned to vacuum and time. Victor activates the undocking timer. T60 minutes. The Soyuz internal batteries take over, lights dim to a sepulchral amber. Vladimir can only sense as a drop in fan pitch. They strap in, shoulder to shoulder, helmets resting on laps, visors up. Hour 10. The station drifts away slowly at first, spring-loaded pushrods extending, creating a 30-centimeter gap, then a meter, then 10. Through the periscope, Victor watches their home shrink into a glittering crucifix against the star field. He describes it aloud. No color commentary now, only geometry. Solar arrays like wings, docking cone like a mouth open in surprise, the scorched patch where a Progress freighter once scraped paint. When the distance reaches 40 meters, he fires the departure thruster, a gentle 0.5-second pulse, a lover's last touch before the fall begins. Hour 11. The burn comes. Victor counts down aloud. Vladimir grips the abort handle, feels the vibration rumble through the hull, through his bones, through the darkness. 4 minutes 37 seconds of steady push. The engine note a low growl that climbs half an octave as propellant mass drops. When the cutoff arrives, the silence is shocking, as if someone has torn the universe in half and sewn the edges together wrong. They are now on an irreversible trajectory, a ballistic arc that will kiss the atmosphere at 100 kilometers altitude, convert 8 kilometers per second of orbital energy into heat and light and sound. Victor breathes for the first time in 11 hours. He turns to the blind man, touches helmet to helmet, so the vibration travels bone to bone. "We are falling," he says. "Next stop, snow." Outside, the station they left behind glints once, twice, then disappears into the black over the shoulder of the earth. Inside, Vladimir closes his useless eyes, releases the abort handle, and begins to count the minutes until the air outside turns to fire, counting not in seconds but in heartbeats, in breaths, in the silver wire of Victor's voice that still glows in the dark. The Soyuz is falling. Not like an elevator, not like a parachute, like a meteor that has forgotten how to burn. 8 kilometers per second of orbital velocity must be murdered by atmosphere, converted in 400 seconds of thermodynamic rage into a soft thump against snow. Vladimir knows the numbers by heart, but knowing and feeling are different religions. He feels only the absence, no light, no up, no horizon, only the couch pressing harder, harder, until shoulder blades grind against Kazakh steppe, even though they are still 100 kilometers above it. Victor's voice is the single thread tying him to the living. Coming up on entry interface. 3, 2, 1. A dull thud vibrates through the hull as the disposable orbital module separates, jettisoned like a spent stagecoach. Now they are naked inside the bell, 3 meters of titanium and hope. Plasma begins to lap the outside, a ghost tongue tasting metal. Through the periscope, Victor sees the window bloom orange, then white, then blinding blue-white, but he keeps the commentary surgical. G onset, 3, 4, hold it, now 5. The hand of gravity slams into Vladimir's chest, drives the breath out like a fist punching bread dough. Fevered blood pools towards his back. Vision, what remains of it, explodes into crimson fireworks behind ruined optic nerves. He grunts, feels ribs creak, feels the cooling cuff on his neck compress against skin until gel squeals. Victor's gloved hand finds his wrist, pins it to the couch so the fingers won't wander and flip a switch by accident. Stay with me, stay in the count. Counting is all he has. He counts heartbeats, 130 per minute. He counts seconds, 150 since entry began. He counts switch guards, 6 between his hip and knee. He counts the lies he told his daughter before launch, that the sky would always give him back. The sky is not giving, it is taking, atom by atom, roasting their frail shell at 2,000 degrees Celsius, painting a white-hot streak across Siberian dawn that herders below will mistake for a falling star. At 8 grams, the vibration becomes a jackhammer. Bolts flex, insulation flakes, dust dances in frenzy Brownian jigs. Victor's voice distorts into a growl. Cabin pressure holding. Heat shield nominal. 8.2. Peak, now. The load eases off as abruptly as a guillotine drop. 8 grams to 5, to 3, to a gentle 1.5. They are through the firewall. Vladimir realizes he has been screaming, not from fear, but from simple thoracic pressure forcing air past vocal cords. He clamps his jaw, tastes blood where tongue met teeth. Good work, Victor pants. We're subsonic. Drogue next. A mortar fires. The capsule lurches upward like a horse stung by a wasp. 3 pilot chutes stream, yank out the drogue, a smaller ribbon canopy that stabilizes fall, bleeding velocity from 230 meters per second to 80. The jerk is sharp but welcome. It means fabric, not plasma, now owns their lives. Victor glances at the barometer. 10 kilometers altitude. Arm the main, he orders. Vladimir's hand moves on instinct, finds the guarded toggle, flips it. A green lamp, useless to him, glows on the panel. Main chute command armed. Auto fire at 4 kilometers. They wait. The capsule sways under the drogue, a pendulum counting down its own arc. Vladimir hears the wind outside shift, tenor, feels the temperature drop through the metal. They have entered the planetary boundary layer, the breath of Earth rising to meet them. At 4.5 kilometers, the aneroid capsule trips. A snap like a tree branch, then the world explodes into white silk. 1,000 square meters of canopy blossom above, yanking descent rate from 80 meters per second to 7 meters per second in 2 heartbeats. The lurch is brutal, necks whip, helmets clack. Victor whoops, an involuntary sound torn from diaphragm. Vladimir feels tears rocket sideways across his cheeks, trapped inside the helmet. He cannot see the canopy, but he can hear it. Fabric snapping, lines thrumming, a bass drum struck by atmosphere. Main is good, lines clear, vent ports open, Victor calls. We're gentle as a cradle. But the step is still rising. Through the periscope, Victor sees an endless white sheet, featureless under low winter sun, wind carving scalloped drifts that look like frozen waves. He keys the rescue beacon. The ping pulses at 121.5 megahertz, a cry audible to every overflying airliner, every ham operator, every helicopter within 1,000 kilometers. Now we wait for the ground, he says, then catches himself. Sorry. When we touch, brace knees, unlock belts at full stop, do not open hatch until snow covers the steam. Understood? Vladimir nods, but the nod is irrelevant. Gravity has returned to stay. He feels the capsule rotate beneath the canopy, a slow pirouette that gives Victor 360-degree panoramas and gives him only changing angles of wind noise. He tries to picture it: white land, white sky, a red capsule bleeding heat into snow. The image flickers, unstable, like a television with vertical hold failing. 200 meters. The wind shears, gusts to 30 kilometers per hour as promised. The capsule tilts, swings, then stabilizes. Victor grips the manual release handle for the parachute lines. If the wind drags them after landing, they will be dragged to death. 50 meters. Vladimir hears the first hiss of snow grains striking the hull, a sound like distant radio static. 20. He clamps his jaw, presses boots against the footwell, interlaces fingers behind head. 10. Impact. The capsule punches through crusted drifts, burrows half its height into powder. Deceleration slams both men forward into straps. The parachute collapses overhead, billows, settles. Steam vents from heat shield cracks, instantly condenses into ghost white pillars that whirl away on the wind. Silence rushes in, so abrupt it feels like deafness after the long roar of re-entry. Victor's hands fly. Release straps, kill beacon switch to conserve battery, crack the pressure equalization valve. Atmospheric air, cold enough to burn, surges inside. He twists the hatch dogs, shoves outward. A slab of pale sky framed by blinding snow fills the round doorway. Wind knifes in, carrying the smell of diesel exhaust and pine resin and distant wood smoke. Earth. Vladimir sits motionless, helmet still sealed, eyes wide to nothing. We're down? He asks, voice tiny. We're down, Victor confirms. He clambers out first, boots sinking to calves in powder, then reaches back, guides the commander's gloves to the combing. Step up, swing legs, I've got your mass. Vladimir obeys. The moment his boots leave the capsule, he feels gravity clutch him like an iron cloak. After 186 days in micro-G, his soles remember weight, but his vestibular system riots. The world tilts, knees buckle, he drops to all fours in snow. Cold bites through flight liners, a shock so pure it almost feels like sight. He gasps, lifts his head, lets the wind scour tears across skin that has not felt real weather in half a year. Can you see anything? Victor asks, crouching, voice low. Vladimir turns toward the sound, eyes tracking but vacant. Gray blur, maybe less than gray, shape without boundary, light without form. Shadows, he whispers, maybe, or memory of shadows. Victor swallows hard, clasps the commander's elbow. That's the sun behind me. Face it. Feel it. Vladimir obeys. Warmth touches skin, faint but undeniable. He imagines the disk, orange low winter sun over Kazakh steppe, and the image welds itself to the heat on his cheeks. A first landmark in the new country of blindness. In the distance, rotor blades thud. Mi-8 helicopters, homing on the beacon. They grow from specks to dragonflies to thundering machines that kick up blizzards of spindrift. Medics in bulky greatcoats leap out before the skids stop, sprinting, collapsible stretcher between them. Victor waves both arms, shouting in Russian too fast for radio discipline. Alive, both alive, vision loss, fever, need darkened goggles, need 4-line, need thermal wrap. The first medic reaches Vladimir, drops to knees, flashes a penlight across the eyes, reflex absent. He barks an order, a foil blanket appears, wrapped around shoulders. Another medic slips dark goggles over the commander's face, shielding useless retinas from glare that could trigger further inflammation. They lift him onto the stretcher, snow crunches like broken glass underfoot. As they carry him toward the helicopter, he reaches out, gloved hand sweeping air. Victor catches it, squeezes. "I'm here. Same bird, same ride." They load side by side. The engine pitch climbs, rotors bite, the craft lurches skyward. Through the porthole, Victor watches the red capsules shrink to a berry, then to a pinprick, then vanish into the white infinity that almost claimed them. He turns back to the commander. Vladimir's head lolls with vibration, face gray behind goggles, but the corner of his mouth twitches upward. "Did we really do it?" he asks. Victor leans close, helmet bumping against the fuselage. "We fell from space and lived. The rest is details." The helicopter banks toward Arcolic, toward hospitals, toward uncertain futures. Beneath them the steppe rolls on, indifferent, already filling their footprints with fresh snow. In the cargo bay, a medic starts in 4-line, saline dripping cold into Vladimir's arm, a slow infusion of Earth itself. He feels the chill travel vein by vein, imagines it washing fever, washing blindness, washing fear. He still cannot see, but he can hear the rotor song, feel the sun through aluminum skin, taste diesel and ice on every breath. It is enough for now. It is everything. The hospital smells of carbolic and overcooked buckwheat, odors that claw their way through the oxygen mask strapped across Vladimir's face. He lies on a wire-frame cot, 4 lines snaking into both arms, a cooling blanket tucked beneath his flight suit. The goggles remain, but the lenses are flipped up. The doctors need the pupils, need the truth. A penlight flicks again, left eye, right eye. Still nothing. The optic discs, seen through an ophthalmoscope, are pale discs ringed by the pink of healthy retina, but the nerves behind them are swollen, ghost white, as if frost has crept along each axon. Post-febrile optic neuritis, the senior physician declares, inflammation triggered by a bacterium that rode uphill inside a sinus cavity, blossomed in 0G, and bathed the optic chiasm in cytokines. The fever has broken. 38 hours of antivirals and steroids have seen to that, but vision is a cathedral rebuilt brick by brick, and the scaffolding has only just arrived. Vladimir listens to the verdict without moving. When the white coats leave, he turns his face toward the window he cannot see, tracking the warmth of afternoon sun the way a flower tracks an unseen star. Footsteps enter, Victor, unmistakable, the slight drag of the left boot from an old parachute injury. "They say it might return," Victor offers, voice low. "Days, weeks, no promises." Vladimir's fingers drum the blanket. "I remember the sound of re-entry. If I can hold that fire in my ears, I can wait." Victor settles onto the edge of the bed. "You won't wait alone. They're flying Tatiana in tomorrow. Your girl brings drawing paper, colored pencils. She says she'll paint the world for you until yours reboots." The commander's throat works. "I want to see her first face at the gate, not months later when some doctor declares me fit. Then we train your eyes like we trained your hands, every day, every hour." Victor pulls a small tin from his pocket, flips the lid. Inside rests a strip of photographic film, 6 frames, each exposed to pure white during the worst of the fever. "I salvaged this from the capsule before they towed it away. It recorded nothing but overexposure. Your blindness, captured on celluloid. I thought you might want to keep it. A map of where you've been." Vladimir's fingers explore the strip, find the sprocket holes, the curled edge. "A map of the dark," he murmurs. "When the world comes back, I'll know how far I traveled to return." Days compress into a routine as rigid as any orbit. Dawn steroids, morning vision exercises, afternoon walks along a corridor that smells of wet wool and iodine. Nurses lead him by the elbow. He counts steps, memorizes turns, learns the location of radiator pipes by heat, of windows by cold drafts. Each day the doctors project shapes onto a wall, circles, triangles, letters, backlit by a lamp whose brightness climbs by 5 lux increments. He stares into the glare, reports what he sees. Nothing, nothing. A gray bloom, a brighter bloom, the ghost of an edge. On the 12th day, the edge hardens into a circle. On the 15th, the circle gains color, pale lemon. The ophthalmologist records 22 thousandths vision. Legally blind, but light has found the gate. Victor visits every afternoon, brings artifacts of sound, a cassette of rotor blades, a metronome ticking at re-entry tempo, a child's music box that plays the first bars of Moscow Nights. They sit in the solarium while winter light slants through frosted glass, eyes closed, training auditory cortex to paint what visual cortex cannot. Vladimir learns to distinguish the clink of a teaspoon in porcelain from the clink of ice in glass, to measure distance by echo in a room he has never seen. The nurses whisper that the cosmonaut is rebuilding himself from vibration. Week 3. The snow outside begins to melt, dripping from eaves in slow metronomes. Inside, the doctors upgrade the test. A projector flashes letters in decreasing sizes. Vladimir squints, reports. The top line, a gap, a hole that wants to be an O. They slide a pinhole occluder in front of his eyes. Acuity jumps to 2400. Applause breaks out. Doctors, nurses, orderlies clapping as if he has walked on water. He laughs, surprised at the sound of his own relief. That night, Victor produces a bottle of Georgian cognac smuggled past the duty nurse. They pour 2 thimbles, clink plastic cups. To silver wires, Victor says. To gaps that become os, Vladimir answers. He drinks, feels the burn rekindle pathways from tongue to brain, realizes taste has returned in full. Caramel, oak, the copper of fear. The room swims into soft focus, curtain rods, the glint of bottle glass, the blurred but unmistakable silhouette of his friend. He grips Victor's sleeve. I see you, he whispers, a shadow, a man-shaped hole against the light. Victor does not speak. He simply places his other hand over Vladimir's and holds it there while the cognac evaporates from their glasses and the radiator ticks like an old gyroscope. Week 4, visual acuity reaches 2070, still myopic, still warped, but faces resolve, cheekbones, the scar on Victor's left eyebrow, the gray in his own stubble when he peers into a mirror for the first time since orbit. Color blooms next, sudden, gaudy, as if someone replaced the world's film stock with Technicolor. The green of hospital walls is almost painful. The red of a nurse's lipstick is a shout. He walks the corridor unaided, counting steps out of habit now rather than necessity. And when he reaches the window at the end, he sees not just light but landscape, birch trunks, a fence, a My-8 resting on frozen grass like a great tired insect. Tears come, unexpected, salt-stinging eyes that are learning salt again. The doctors discharge him on a morning when hoarfrost turns every twig into chandeliers. Tatiana meets him at the gate, small, bundled in a blue parka, clutching a rolled sheaf of drawings. He sees her before she sees him, a smear of cobalt that sharpens into a child, then into his child, then into the only face that matters. She runs, he kneels, she collides with his chest, papers flying. He holds her, eyes open, and for the first time the world is not a silver wire but a furnace of detail. The freckle on her left cheek, the uneven braid his wife never managed to fix, the tears that refract January light into tiny captive rainbows. Later, in the car, she unwraps the drawings. Crayon suns, purple cows, a red capsule streaking across a sky that graduates from realist blue to impossible magenta. On the last page, she has drawn 2 stick figures holding hands beneath a parachute the size of the moon. One figure wears goggles, the other holds a flashlight pointed at the ground. Beneath, in careful Cyrillic, for Papa, who taught the dark to sing. He stares until the colors bleed and reform, until the flashlight in the drawing becomes the penlight in his memory, until the parachute becomes the canopy that carried him home. He realizes the doctors were wrong. Vision did not return brick by brick. It returned story by story, sound by sound, love by love. Spring arrives early. He walks the step outside Arkalike, following meltwater creeks that reflect a sky scrubbed clean by wind. Victor joins him for the final test, the walk to the capsule itself, now mounted on a concrete plinth as a monument. The heat shield is charred, windows frosted by re-entry crazing, but to Vladimir it gleams like cathedral iron. He places his palm against the metal, feels the echo of 8 grams, hears again the roar of plasma, Then he turns away, toward the horizon where grass meets sky, and sees clearly the curve of Earth, the pale blue that deepens to indigo, the first evening star a pinprick of stable light. Victor lights a cigarette, offers one. Vladimir declines. "I've seen enough smoke," he says, and they laugh, small, astonished laughter that spirals upward into air that smells of thaw and distant pine. That night, in the guest dormitory, Vladimir stands before a mirror lit by a single bulb. He studies the reflection. Same high cheekbones, same scar under the left eye, same gray beginning to frost the temples, but the pupils are different. They hold distance now, the black of space that never quite leaves a man who has fallen through it. He flicks off the bulb. Darkness returns, gentle this time, friendly. He can still find the switch by feel, still count the steps to bed, still navigate by sound if the world ever chooses to blind him again. But for now he chooses light. He climbs under blankets, listens to the tick of cooling metal in the walls, and sleeps without dreams of falling. Weeks later, back at Star City, the review board convenes. Cameras roll, general salute, medals are proposed. He declines the public ceremony, asks instead for a day in the simulator with Victor, lights dim to the level of his last blurred memory, running the re-entry sequence one final time with eyes wide open. When the virtual canopy opens onto a digital step, he sees every pixel, every polygon, and knows the reconstruction is complete. The technicians leave. Victor lingers. They stand in the fake cockpit, two men surrounded by projection screens that show an Earth turning, always turning. "What now?" Victor asks. Vladimir smiles, the expression clear and unpracticed. "Now we teach the next ones who fly that darkness is just another country. You don't need sight to see the way home. You need sound, touch, memory, and someone to call your name when the lights go out." They shake hands, helmet to helmet, the old ritual renewed in full vision. Outside, summer clouds build into towering cumulonimbus, anvils glowing with internal lightning. Vladimir watches them rise, counts the seconds between flash and thunder, and feels the storm as color. Electric violet, bruise indigo, the blinding white of a re-entry that has finally, mercifully, ended. He has gone blind in orbit and opened his eyes to Earth again. Not the same eyes, not the same Earth, but close enough to recognize the face of a friend in a crowded room. The silver wire of Victor's voice still glows somewhere behind his optic nerves, a permanent filament he can summon whenever the world grows dim. He turns away from the simulator, walks toward daylight, and does not look back.